Now that Vandy's identity is established in 2025, they must enhance it if they want to make that jump.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. So download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Today, we're going to look at how Vandy basketball cracks the top 25. Can they stay there? What's changed? What's evolved? We'll talk about all that. In football, Vandy established a clear identity, had success, and now the question is, how do they further enhance their identity to continue to generate that success? That's the most important thing, because once you get your identity set, yeah, that's great. But now you got to keep it there. Now you got to keep it there, and you got to improve it and improve it and improve it. You got to take the things you did well, make them better, take the things you didn't do well, and bring them up to speed. And that's a tall order. Okay, that's a tough task in and of itself. I mean, you have a hard schedule, you have a lot of things going against you, but again, in order to prove that you're a top 40 program, you have to prove that you're a top 40 program. And I know that seems redundant. I know that seems easy to say, and okay, well, yeah, no kidding. But, there's some things that I think Vandy, with their identity, if they improve these things, then they will make that next step. And that next step is to, okay, you're a top 40 program now. Now you need to get into the top 25. And then you need to inch towards the top 12, or if the playoff expands, the top 16. You just need to inch closer to where you're more consistently in that range, and you're kind of always in the conversation. And for Vandy, that's exactly where you want to be. And at number 40, you're starting to enter the conversation. You're approaching the conversation. There's other teams that are in the conversation that I'm not sure if they should be, but they're considered to be in the conversation. And Vandy can be one of those programs, and that would completely blow everybody's mind if that were to happen. So this is going to be an interesting year for Clark Lee. Can he continue that success? Can he build on what he did in 2024, which was monumental after what happened in 2023? So can he continue that upward trajectory? I think he can. I think he can. I think that he will. And I think that there's some things that need to happen, but I think they're doing the right things to address these needs. It's just, with players, it can be, it can go one way or the other because they're humans. You don't know how they're going to react. You don't know exactly why, and you won't know exactly why until you see them in camp or until you see them in the practice situation. You won't know exactly why they didn't get opportunities elsewhere or wherever they come from. Loic Fungi, we can see why he just wasn't consistent getting separation. Some of these receivers that they brought in, they were good and all, and they needed some opportunity, and they were good to get on short notice, and they were good to be able to get with the track record that they were getting into. You're not going to get a big name guy to come in after 2023 season when your coach should have been and was pretty much fired. And then he got some reprieve and came back and absolutely proved everybody wrong. So it's tough to recruit to those circumstances is my point. And you're not going to get guys that are on the cusp of blowing up. You're taking more flyers in that regard. If you're coming off 2-10 versus coming off 7-6, and especially a 7-6 that's coming off an abysmal 2-10. That's even better. That adds a little bit more juice to it. So what do they need to do to keep moving forward? Okay, what do they need to do? First thing they need to do is to attract talent. Okay, they need to continue to attract talent. They need to continue to build depth. They need to take these freshmen, build them into depth pieces and contributors, fill in your gaps with portal guys, and then once you get that good mix going, I think you're going to be in good shape. But like, how do they attract talent, right? They have to prove that there's a program here to join. It's not just, okay, it's Clark Lee just waiting, just buying his time to get fired. It's not a team that's it's not a team that's constantly searching for their identity, because I think it's well established. It's not a team that doesn't know what they want to do. I think Clark Lee decided that was one of the things he needed to address in the offseason last year. He did. They established an identity. And I think that's going to be the main thing that's going to attract talent, not just playing talent, but coaching talent as well. You're going to build your scouting department, your training department, your coaching staff, your nutrition staff, your academic support staff. Like, you're going to bring in quality people because now they see quality investment within the program. And this is the most exciting part, because like if I'm looking at this from the outside looking in, I'm very, very encouraged by what's happening. And some of the little stuff that will help feed into that, I think if you fix that, if you bolster that, you'll just continue that cycle of getting good guys, not the cycle of, hey, you were my first offer, so I'm going to commit and hold a spot, and then decommit and go to South Carolina later. That kind of thing I think is going to be less frequent at Vandy, because NIL, living in Nashville, you're in a now stable and improving program, and you know exactly what you're getting into identity-wise. So like, if you're a wide receiver, you know that playing with Diego Pavia, like having 4 catches for 70 yards is a really good day. And if you're okay with that, then great. But and that identity won't shift, but it'll kind of fluctuate a little bit depending on who's playing quarterback. So understand that as well. So, but for now, here's how you improve. You need to discover your passing game and its playmakers. Okay, if you want to build an exciting brand of football. I love this picture, though, of this guy. He's like, well, what do we do? Right? You got to discover your passing game and its playmakers. Okay, that's important, because you want to put forth, you want to show an identity of, hey, this is an exciting offense. This is an exciting place to play. You're going to have fun. This offense is exciting. It's high tempo. It scores a lot of points. It's explosive. You're going to get some good looks at the next level. Discover your passing game and its playmakers, okay? Because those two things go hand in hand. You got to discover, what Pavia is good at throwing, right? He's good at sprint out and he's good at quick game. Now you got to figure out some like drop back pass stuff from the pocket that he can throw. You got to figure out who's going to be the playmakers, who's going to do it. Can Junior Sherrill do it on a consistent basis? Can it be LeBron? Is it going to be LeBron Hill? Is it going to be, is it going to be Chance Fitzgerald? Is it going to be Trent? I can never think of his name. Trent. Is it going to be Richie Hoskins? Is it going to be Trent Hudson? Is it going to be, that's it, Trent Hudson. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Eli Stowers again? Who's going to join Eli Stowers? What kind of personnel groups are they going to be in? Discover your passing game. Figure out what you can do well. Figure out who your playmakers are. All right. Also, the run game was great last year, but people are going to be able to stop, and people are going to be able to do tendency formation stuff. Okay. So you got to incorporate more pre-snap movements and shifts, and you've got to do some tendency breakers in the run game, right? You've got to shift some things, run weak. You've got to get guys on the move, and you've got to do it in a way that they can't communicate with the green dot and say, okay, alert this, alert that. You've got to do things, and you've got to create tendencies, false tendencies that, are associated with certain formations, and then actually break those tendencies. So that's going to be, enhance your run game, more pre-snap movements and shifts that gives defense fits. And then if you can work on doing that when the play clock hits 14 and not panic and create these pre-snap penalties, which I thought was a pretty clean season as far as pre-snap penalties go. It's more clean than it usually is. Okay. Defensively, attack the run, shore up the center of the defense, right? You have to attack the run. You have to attack the gaps. You have to shore that up. A and B gap runs were killer to this defense. It just seemed like you were getting gashed. And some of that was lack of depth on the interior. Those guys get worn out. Offensive linemen in the SEC are big. If you know that. So that's something right there. Attack the run, shore up the defense, okay? And then communicate better on the back end in the secondary, get pressure on the quarterback in the front end in the passing game defensively. One of the things against Tennessee is you weren't generating any pressure on Nico, and Nico does not thrive under much duress. And you saw that early in the game when they did actually get pressure on him. He did not thrive. He threw an interception. He hurries, throws, and he's just not great with people bearing down on him. Not many quarterbacks are, but Nico certainly isn't, right? So you have to find ways to get pressure on the quarterback without bringing 6 or 7, 5, 6 or 7. Like sometimes if you got to figure out ways to generate pressure with 4. You can't bring a 3-man rush all the time or hardly ever because quarterbacks are good enough to pick that apart. But you got to figure out a way to get home with 4. You got to figure out ways to get home with 5 on the pass rush. And then defensively, when the quarterback doesn't have all day to throw, there's still some situations where the quarterback had some pressure and then he was able to hit somebody deep mostly because of a lack of communication, mostly because somebody wasn't talking on the back end, and all of a sudden, you have 2 guys driving on a low route. Next thing you know, somebody's wide open in the backfield. So, but these, like I said, these 4 things I think immediately can help just the quality of play. And I think that's kind of the first step into showing recruits that, hey, this is a pretty good program. You're going to be showcased pretty well. It's an exciting style of play. And then also for the fans' sake too. Like if you can discover your pass game and its playmakers, fans want to see that. Fans want to see you light up the scoreboard. Fans want to see that kind of thing, right? Fans want to see interceptions from your defense. They want to see defenses, they want to see those guys celebrating in the backfield, that kind of thing. So you have to figure out how can you make it more exciting, not only for recruits, but for fans, for NIL. People are going to be willing to give. Like it all benefits. And these 4 things you can do would benefit that. So I just thought it was interesting, thinking about, okay, Vandy's a top 40 program. How do you take it to that next level? How do you continue to take it to that next level? And we'll and throughout the offseason, we can dive into specifically these categories, like what kind of pre-snap motions are good, what gives you fits, things like that. So, having the other programs on campus is good too. Like baseball being good has always been good for football. It kind of just takes that championship momentum and people feeling good about what's going on at Vandy. It kind of takes that momentum into the summer and gets people excited about football a little bit. And then football being good got some people excited about basketball, and basketball being good has got people excited for spring football. And so this is a chance for Vandy's programs to kind of all feed into that positivity train and that championship mentality. It gives you a chance to. Vandy cracked the top 25. How'd that happen? Well, I'll tell you next. All right. Did you know Super Bowl 59 is here? 1 game, 2 teams, endless possibilities. That's the Chiefs and the Eagles. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, Saquon Barkley, calling the MVP, Patrick Mahomes, or even betting on the coin toss, tails, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill of kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's icing on the cake. So download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. It's just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 59. All right. Welcome back. Thank you for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Also, if you need a second listen, Locked On SEC is phenomenal. Chris Gordy does a great job, has great guests. He had Shane Beamer on. I think it was last week. My concept of time is completely thrown in the trash heap. But the Hoops team is ranked number 24. And honestly, after the coaching hire, the new coaching hire, which he's known for building programs from scratch, but he's been known for also taking over pretty rough situations and bringing them out of the tank. And so when Mark Byington was hired, the entire roster left. Okay, I'm thinking, okay, well, it certainly may get worse before it gets better. I just hope we play exciting basketball and we don't get blown out all the time. And I hope that this thing just steadily improves a little bit. And I think I'll be able to say Mark Byington did a good job. Well, that expectation went out the window in a hurry, in a good way, because he's far exceeded my expectations. The roster just met each other in June. Some of them probably knew each other before, but for the most part, this roster met each other in June when they were able to open up practice. I'm sure they met in the weight room some and whatever, but this is like in June was the first time they were able to practice together and to really get a glimpse of each other on the floor. And so for them to be in this position when they were in that position in the summer is nothing short of impressive, because it's hard to get new guys to gel. It just is. It's difficult to get a new team to gel. When you replace a lot, it's tough to get those guys to gel. Imagine having an entire roster, getting them to gel. That's impressive, right? I'm a big fan of that, right? I'm a big fan of the coaching job. And again, it goes back to the theme of the show, identity. Mark Byington established an identity. And he stuck with that identity, and people were very skeptical, myself included. I was skeptical because we didn't have a sharpshooter, we didn't have a big man, right? Relatively speaking, we didn't have a big, right? And so I'm like, okay, with a team like this, you do need a sharpshooter, you do need a big guy, and I think they're going to get outsized in a lot of these games, and I think they're going to find themselves struggling through the conference slate, because they don't have these things and they're not an exceptional shooting team. They can score. They just don't do it with mid-range and 3-point shots. They get to the rim, they create, get to the line, they turn you over on the defensive end and get buckets in transition. So those are the things that they do well. And that's part of Mark Byington's philosophy. You can tell he emphasizes that because that's what they do, especially on the defensive end of the floor. You can tell they emphasize that a lot, and that's a good thing. But just recently I guess they either listened to my show or looked at the stat sheet or both and said, you know what, that Corey Burton is right. Shooting 19% from 3-point land in back-to-back games is not good. And it wasn't. It was horrible. And you got pretty much spanked. And they made a change. It seemed like they made a concerted effort to say 19% is unacceptable. We're going to work on it. And it looks like they did, because now they've been right around 40% from 3-point land since I made those comments. And every game I check, they're shooting better from 3. Usually that correlates, because teams, when they play a certain way, you have to adjust. And this team's doing a really good job of adjusting. That's kind of what's changed to me. They've evolved into a team that can now shoot a little bit. They've changed and evolved into a team that can find creative ways to score. They've evolved into a more patient team. Okay, they're not rushing bad shots. They're eating up the shot clock. They move the ball around. They try to create good open looks. Do they hit them all the time? No. I wish they did, but they don't. And that's okay. But they're creating, right? They're making They're making things happen because they are patient and they're moving the ball around. And that's kind of what's changed, and that's kind of what's involved to me. And I'm a big fan of, like, I think this is a good coaching job that Mark Byington's done, because he is he's emphasizing these things, and he knows. Like, it seems as, when you look at last year's team, it seemed as if either Jerry Stackhouse's head was in the sand, or he was just like, you know what, I'm not even going to worry about fixing our problems, because we're just going to just do what we do, and that's what we do. And if we win, we win. If we don't, we don't. That's kind of like a more of an NBA mindset. Like, in the NBA, you kind of are who you are. And you just kind of let those guys do their thing. You point them in the right direction occasionally, but like, eventually those guys are professionals. They're going to figure it out and just kind of go. And if they don't, they'll get replaced. And that doesn't work in college, because these are 18 to 20-year-old kids, and you have to get them on a routine. You have to put more guardrails on how they play. You have to create identities. You have to figure out who's your stars, who's your role players, right? You need a superstar, a regular star, and 3 role players. Okay. And if your star is your center, maybe your role player is your point guard. Like, he's your distributor, right? You need guys that can feed the stars, but also contribute on their own. And Vandy hasn't had that in a long time. And Ezra Mannion and Tyron Lawrence, they were great last year. But like, they had no other role players. They had no other support. They had no coaching support, as far as them being, because Stackhouse is not a good fit for Vandy, because Vandy's just a different way of doing things. Memorial Gym is different. Like, you have to be kind of outside the box at Vandy, and he just didn't fit into that whole philosophy. And then he didn't fit in the whole philosophy of college basketball either. Like, he's an NBA guy, and he probably will do very well in the NBA. And eventually, as much as they turn over coaches, he'll get his head coaching shot here pretty soon. He's on the Warriors bench right now, but he'll get his head coaching shot here pretty soon. And I'll be rooting for him. I will be rooting for him to do well. I don't think he's a bad guy. I just think he was a bad fit. They didn't have an identity, but they have an identity now. And that's what, and they need to keep that identity if they want to keep up this ranking and keep up the success and get into the NCAA tournament. So we'll talk about what they need to do next. All right, joint chiropractic. If you need to get adjusted, which I need to badly, you go see Dr. Nolan at Bellevue if you're in the Bellevue area, or one of 900 locations nationwide. Pick one that's closest to you. Go get adjusted. I promise you will not regret that. They have great plans, membership plans, and they also have great, they do a personalized treatment plan for you to be able to make sure that you're addressing all of the areas of concern. The doctor evaluates you, so it's no guessing. He's not going on hearsay. He's going to say, if you tell him something, he's going to check it out, and he's going to test it. He's going to say, okay, yeah, this is what we need to do, and he's going to come up with a plan. Very knowledgeable over there, treat you extremely well, and they're pretty quick as far as being able to get you in. So I'm excited about it, and I think this is something that you should be excited about too. But joint chiropractic, 900 locations nationwide. Go find one that you enjoy. All right, welcome back. Wrapping up here on the Locked On Vandy podcast. Again, at Locked On Vandy on all socials. I've just started using the site called Choppity. It's a really good site. It creates these video clips, and it's been really, really, really fun. So I'm excited about that. And I'm excited to bring you guys all the Vandy stuff. So keep following, keep subscribing. I'm above 600 now. Let's get to 700 by let's say Valentine's Day. Let's get to 700. Can we do that? I challenge you to let's get to 1,000 subscribers by football season. Let's get to 700 by Valentine's Day. That's less than 100 subs. Let's do it. We can do it. We can get there, and there'll be some more perks if we can get there. There'll be some content that's being made, some Instagram lives, YouTube shorts, a little bit of extra short form video content that will hopefully enhance the brand and enhance your coverage of Locked On Vandy. But you guys got to tell me what you need, what you want, and don't say for me to be whatever. Tell me what you want me to talk about. All right, let me know what you like. Let me know what topics you want me to avoid. Let me know what about basketball that you want to hear? Because not all my basketball shows do great. So what is it about basketball that you do want me to hear? What is it about baseball that you want to hear? What do you think would drive a good show and an exciting show about baseball, about basketball, right? Because I'd love to go beyond that, but like football seems like it's what you guys want to hear. So that's kind of what I want to deliver. And I'm a football guy, so it just comes natural to me. So with all those factors considered, that's kind of where we're at. So, but talking basketball real quick as we wrap up, how do they keep up this evolution? How do they keep up this ranking? How do they get into the dance? Okay. I think they continue. Obviously they continue to play to their identity, defense and turnovers. They've been doing pretty good rebounding too. I don't know where they're, I haven't really researched all the rankings and where they're ranked in the country as far as rebounding goes. I just know that they're taking advantage of some opportunities rebounding, and they've been really good at causing turnovers, and they've been really good at putting pressure on the opposing team. So that's been something that's been looked at and sought after, and I've been very impressed with what they've been able to do there. That's their identity: put pressure on you, defense, take advantage of scoring opportunities, and let's get down to it. So they need to continue to do all that, and then they just need to continue to improve their free throw shooting, because as they continue to get to the rim, they're going to get fouled. It's going to become hack-a-door, which means what they used to do with Hack-a-Shack, where they knew he couldn't shoot free throws because, like, for him, it's like shooting with a racquetball, and it's like shooting down at the goal with the racquetball. That's pretty tough. So it's definitely going to be, hey, put Vandy on the line, they'll miss, and then we'll go down and get our opportunities. So they've got to be better at free throw shooting, just shooting in general from the field and from three-point range. You've got to continue a little more consistent pattern of hitting a higher percentage of shots, because if you can do that and you can pour points on, you can be like Alabama, just kind of overwhelm your opponent. And that's kind of what the base is with how they play defense. They overwhelm you, but they can't overwhelm you offensively because they haven't to this point been a consistently good shooting team. So that's something that you have to kind of consider as you're evolving, as you're scouting, as you're going through practice. How can we move the ball around? How can we create set plays out of transition to be able to get the ball in the hoop and in a consistent basis? How do we create open looks? How do we create high percentage looks for our guys? How do we, and I'm sure they keep data on all this, but like they chart, okay, where is Jalen Carey hitting most of his shots? How is Jason Edwards scoring most of his buckets? How is AJ Hogarth scoring most of his buckets? I see him driving a lot. So are they going to create opportunities to get him slashing down the lane so he can go dunk on somebody? Like, how's that happening? Who's turning into the sharpshooter? Like you need that guy. You need that JJ Redick type where you just catch, shoot, it's automatic. Or you remember Trajan Langdon? Any of you old school college basketball fans? They called him the Alaskan Assassin. And then they also fans would also chant automatic when he would touch the ball because they knew he was an automatic three. And they would go, automatic. And sure enough, swish. Right? So Vandy needs to find that. Who's that guy? Who can be that guy? Do they have that guy yet? Is he on the roster? I don't know. But they need to. This is how they enhance their identity as well. They keep it up. They continue to rebound. They get more aggressive rebounding wise. They get more aggressive in the paint and in transition defense. And they try to get as many turnovers and points off of those turnovers as they possibly can, and then all while taking care of the ball as well. Nothing careless as far as passes go, or letting it go out of bounds, things like that. So this is going to be an exciting run after this bye, and just kind of see where they end up, because it's going to be, this is going to be an interesting season because the SEC is really, really good. And so you're going to see how this is going to shake out. Like Tennessee they're not currently losing. They lost to Kentucky. Pretty interesting. So like I said, it's going to be interesting coming down the stretch of, okay, how many SEC teams are actually getting in? I think 10. I feel like 10. But they're off all this week. They don't come back until February 1st. That's Saturday. They play at Oklahoma, and I think they're at Oklahoma, they're at Florida, they're home against Texas. So they got to win 2 of the next 3, because they got a murderer's row of Auburn, Tennessee again, at Kentucky, at Tennessee. Then you have Ole Miss, and then you have Texas A&M, then you have Missouri, all who are ranked. So that's going to be a really tough stretch. So you're going to have to kind of figure out some ways to get creative if you want to have a chance. But they haven't really gotten blown out yet either. So there's something good behind that. But anyway, that's all I got for you guys. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Hope everything is good, and we'll see you back here next time on the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Peace.